3, 2, 1. It's the liver shot. We're back.
Yes, welcome back. It is Tuesday, April 2nd. We're coming off a great fight night just this past Saturday in Philadelphia. So we'll go over that. We're going to get into UFC 236 coming up in a couple weeks. But just in the last week, we've got a little bit of news come out. So we'll quickly run through that. Cain Velasquez is going to make his pro wrestling debut in August in Mexico City for a promotion called AAA at AAA Mania. Good for him, I guess.
I think from a business standpoint, the way everything's changing nowadays where guys realize they don't need to fight till they're 40 years old. They don't need to take all that damage forever. There's other avenues now with promotions of everything. I think it's a good move for Cain because it doesn't mean he can't keep fighting in UFC. It means he's got another avenue to make more money, and guess what? Maybe more people want to see him, especially after the Ngannou fight.
Yeah, I think it's incredibly relevant right now for some reason. I don't know. But with WrestleMania coming up, actually I think just on 60 Minutes this week they were talking about professional fight, how the WWE is ripping off fighters. So hopefully he got a good contract.
Yeah.
And I actually heard an interview with Josh Barnett. He's running a professional fighting organization, I think, or professional wrestling organization, I think, as well. But hopefully he still comes back to the octagon and we see him again, and this is just a one-off thing.
Yeah, my only thing that it looks bad, not to me, but to maybe people in society, is he did this right after the Ngannou fight. So he gets knocked out, my knee blows out, whatever you want to see. Then instantly he's like, all right, I'm going to go to something else. Me, from money standpoint, he's got to keep paying the bills, but at the same time, it's like, how long are you going to do this?
Money for that fight.
No, he made a ton of money. He's going to be out a little bit, so this obviously makes sense. This is another avenue. I just think from a lot of people, it's like, oh, because you didn't win, now you're going to go do something else. But I think Cain's going to be right back in. I don't think he's going to leave. I don't think he's going to do anything drastic. I think this is just a side job right now until he's ready for a big fight again.
Yeah, I hope that's the case. I think it is. It also came out that Greg Hardy is going to co-main another event.
I know you're happy about that.
Card, and I hope he got a whole lot better.
To me, man, for a guy that came in and basically was shocking everything on Dana White's series, Dana even said it. He goes, we'll put him through the true test. He didn't look bad opening up. The worst thing for Greg Hardy that could ever happen was being disqualified in his first debut in the octagon on a main card headliner, and now we're trying to do it all over again and hoping at least he doesn't get DQ'd.
My gosh, yeah, it really did turn out about as poorly as it could have.
Yeah, and I'm worried here for two things for Hardy. One, we know he has massive hands. We know he's aggressive. We know he wants to knock everybody out in a minute, so that's exciting for everybody. But here's the other problem. He hasn't faced other guys that are just as good at doing that, plus 10 times other things in their game. So if he goes against somebody, which I think they're matching him up with somebody that's been a little bit away. He hasn't fought since January 2017, the guy he's going against. But is that because they want Hardy, kind of like a CM Punk, like, we need you to get a win so people can get behind you?
Absolutely.
People got to get behind him. But I honestly think that they're setting him up well, but at the same time, if Hardy falls on his face again, either doing something that looks greedy or ends up getting just absolutely cleaned up with a punch in the first like he does to people, it's going to be really hard to sell him anymore. So I think this is the last-ditch effort for him in the UFC right now.
Yeah, I just think they're rushing.
And that's leading up. That's leading up to the fight. Anything could change. How many times have I been wrong? Every time we do a podcast. So I can't guarantee that he's not going to prove me wrong. But
yeah, whether or not he does well, I just don't think that him or his opponent are entertaining enough fighters to be having a co-main event spot at a big card. It's funny.
Well, the first two fights, and I do not know how to say his name perfectly, but Smolikov has lost his first two fights in the UFC, and then, like I said, has not fought since 2017. Yeah. So this is not a high-ranking, not really an in-the-moment guy.
This is just trying to get
This is just getting a fight for Greg Hardy. Yeah, exactly. But another co-main event that's not making sense to me.
So USADA just issued their first lifetime ban of a fighter, and it was to UFC heavyweight Ruslan Magomedov. I was kind of surprised to hear that was the first one that they'd issued. To be honest,
after everything going on, yeah.
But I guess that's something.
It's 3 strikes, you're out. You know, a lot of people don't realize it. You get popped for your first one, like a TJ situation. You get a redemption. Your second time, you can be up to 4 years, and then 3 strikes, you're out. It's lifetime. the sheer fact that this guy just outright, out of competition, failed, and then said, I'm not even going to piss the second time.
Yeah,
like, refuse to piss. You know you're hot. You know you're pissing jet fuel. So it's kind of a blessing in disguise. The guy probably didn't even need to be in the UFC, because if he was being that obvious...
Yeah, it's the right move for sure.
Yeah.
Yep. This past weekend was also the debut for Demetrius Johnson and Eddie Alvarez in one championship over in Tokyo. Eddie Alvarez got knocked out. Not with the shin kick, but he did get knocked out.
He had 2 shin kicks that came close. What do you think about both debuts? Because I'll get in with it. But overall, everything in a new organization for them. What went well? What didn't go well? That was obvious. What do you think goes on from here?
I don't know. I'd say overall, I thought both of them were going to perform a little bit better than they did. I had said I would not have been surprised if Eddie lost. We both said that we thought Demetrius was going to win. I thought that, I don't know, it makes one look great.
Absolutely.
These are free fights that you can get. The time is tricky to watch them. You got to make an effort to watch them.
But people did that with pride.
Yeah.
Always remember that. Pride, I remember as a kid, I would watch 4:30 in the morning, not knowing what the heck I'm watching, but I knew there was fights on at 4:30 in the morning that were entertaining, that as a kid I watched them that long. So people will latch onto this, whether you're a fan of the sport or you're just getting into it. If they see stuff that happened like that weekend, and then you start seeing these guys' pictures on TV, people will start clicking with it.
Right. Yeah, I think everyone comes out winners except for maybe Eddie Alvarez, but as long as he bounces back, which I think he will, I think he'll be, like I said, I think he will do well over there. I don't think his time as the champion of the organization is past. 2
things for me on Eddie. That fight gave me a lot of flashbacks to the Conor fight, and what I mean...
It kind of did.
The reason I say that is he took a lot of shots up early that I don't think, I'm not going to say he didn't expect to get, but he was not expecting that many that strong. The guy landed a lot of shots, got out of the way of a lot of his. Eddie still threw stuff at him, but that one punch, that left hook, clipped him, took him off his feet, but he was still kind of there. But when he walked away and backed down because he realized how hurt he was, came in for the kill. Same thing with Conor. Now, Conor put in a 4 or 5 punch combo, but the punches leading up to it were kind of like a chipping. And I honestly think, I hope not. Eddie's done it before. He came in his debut against Cowboy, the UFC, after coming out of Strikeforce. Lost. And then just started ripping through the division again, being a name.
That's what Marlon Moraes is doing right now. He lost his first one in the UFC, and now he's ripping through the division.
And that stuff happens, and I hope that happens for Eddie. My thing is, and I know I've talked this about a lot of fighters, you get someone like Eddie who's always in a brawl. There's never a fight there like Eddie didn't put out enough output or he wasn't there. Even the Conor fight, he was getting in there crazy. But is that stuff catching up with him now? Is Eddie getting that chin to where it's a little softer than it used to be, or the amount of damage he wants to take? Because
maybe he's just a little bit slower.
I tell you what, when I saw him get clipped with that and to see him back down, when's the last time you saw Eddie Alvarez not want to walk into you and get reckless? He took that shot, walked back, and it was over. There was no fighting anymore. He was done.
Yeah. I thought that the way Eddie felt, it was very similar to the Conor fight. Just like, almost like he didn't have any answers. He wasn't going to try anything. I felt in both those fights, and just the other guy did whatever they wanted, and he didn't dictate anything. But I mean, after that, he came back. He had wins too. So I think that he'll bounce back. But this should be a awakening for him and for everyone to see there is talent out there. Maybe this looks good for Ben Askren too.
I think it makes Ben Askren look even better, because I know I give Ben Askren a hard time even though I like him a lot. I think it shows that there is levels to this shit, and there's levels all over. The UFC is not the only level tier that you can go up. There's other levels around. So
at least they're not cans. Like they're not.
No.
I think that
this could have went totally opposite. You could have had Eddie gone in there and just absolutely starch somebody, wipe the floor, and DJ go in. And, okay, DJ started out slower than normal. This is a new promotion. This is not the same field. Look at what Machida said when he went to Bellator. He goes, I'm in the cage coming out with fire behind my back. I'm all excited, coming up Pride style, and it still didn't feel like the UFC to him. It's a different feel. It's different fighters. It's things you haven't seen. DJ took his time like he normally does. And to get a standing guillotine choke that tight in that in that division alone, and also now in a new promotion, that just goes to speak volumes that DJ has not skipped a beat. He's healthy, And he didn't take any damage. That's the great
down.
part. Yeah, I think DJ, like you said, I think DJ's got a chance to win that Grand Prix.
Yeah, I would expect him to. Then the last thing I wanted to talk about, also outside the UFC, is your boy Jason Knight is fighting Artem Lobov in a bare-knuckle boxing match. Are you going to watch
What
it?
two better guys? Yes, I'm going to watch it. What two better guys? You got the hillbilly Hick Diaz, going against the original GOAT, which is hilarious, of Artem. But both these guys, trash-talking perfect, hate each other. And guess what? They get to go fight like they would have done in the UFC with no gloves. Yeah, absolutely, I'm going to watch it. Now, what I'm telling you I'm afraid about...
How long do you think this lasts for? Someone dying? Is that what you're afraid
I'm going to
of?
say 2 rounds, and I'm going to say it's going to be not due to a cut or anything of that. I'm going to say someone is going to get one side of their face beat up so bad that they just crumble. My only worry for these guys on another topic, are these guys going to get fucking paid? Because there's been a lot of talk in this bare-knuckling stuff with the money, how it's coming. Is it a scam? Do they have the promotion and the money behind it? Because you got to remember, this is a brand new organization and promotion. They don't have the bankroll that these other guys do. So I hope it is the battle that we want to see, but I also hope whoever does their job gets paid.
Yeah, I think, there's a good chance this does not go past 4 minutes of fighting.
This is 2 UFC released fighters that both always put on a show, but happen to just have a bunch of losses at the wrong time. Yeah. This could be a way that these guys... You know what? It doesn't mean that both these guys can't come back to the UFC. Now, I don't know if Artem ever will just because of how long he's been in there, but Jason Knight cleans his shit up.
Oh, yeah. He could
really 100% be brought back.
Yet.
He was entertaining as shit. Yeah. Jason Knight said the first thing ever, he goes, I fought for fun, and then once I got all this money, I started wanting to fight for more money and not care, and I started losing. Yeah, he took away his heartthrob why he wanted to fight.
He needed to develop.
Yes.
And he fought a bunch. He was very active.
He was the cowboy of that division.
He needed to be active or be less active and train more.
But absolutely, I'll be watching that.
And now he's got probably Malignaggi slapped.
Oh my God! You almost threw hands at him at that conference.
Crazy. So yeah, that's most of the news that we just heard. At least that's the big stuff we feel. But there was a lot of fights announced, and these are huge. So just like we thought. They are going to put Henry Cejudo against Marlon Moraes for the Bantamweight title. That's going to be in Chicago, I believe, at UFC 238. That's another one where all these fights got announced, and they made it all seem like they were a done deal, and now they're saying, we don't know when we're going to do it, or someone hasn't signed, but I believe this one's going to be in Chicago.
Yes. That's that scheduling problem. That's tough, man. You got guys, people have to realize, these guys got to travel. These guys got to make the time. They got to get their camp fit to be able to make it in enough time. They don't want to give a guy a disadvantage. Getting dates is not as easy. All of us can point and say these 2 guys should fight in a month, and then, life happens. That's not going to happen. So, but yeah, on 6-8 in Chicago, that would be very nice.
Yeah, so I think that's like we said, and that probably makes the most sense for that fight. And it'll be good.
It's a vacant belt.
Yeah,
there's no better starting from the finish line, or starting from the starting line, going to the finish line for both these. They have nothing else but to go for that belt. Marlon absolutely deserves it, and Henry absolutely deserves it. There is nobody in this that I think, and especially what I'm liking about this, you got Henry who just finished in 32 seconds, TJ Dillashaw, who was the Bantamweight champion. You also have Marlon Moraes that has not let any one of his last 4 opponents out of the first round and knocked them all out or finished them in flashy ways.
The John Dodson went decision last.
He did go decision. I'm sorry.
Nothing more than the last fight was against Sun Sao.
Yes,
that was a 3-minute fight. That was the longest fight by far.
Before Jimmy, you had that with the head kick right out the gate, and then Aljamain Sterling who went flatline from a knee.
Yep.
And the cool part is he might fight Aljamain Sterling here in less than 6 months.
Yeah, Aljamain's chasing him
He's
back.
right behind his back. So that's the cool thing is with this bantamweight, like we've talked about. I'm not going to get into it again, but. It's so cool to see these guys get right back into it. TJ's out. We're all in. Let's go. Let's get that belt.
Mm-hmm. So yeah, that's a good one. That adds to. I think that was 238 was the card with several of the women's division fights. This will probably be the main event. I've also heard Robbie Lawler and Tyron Woodley too. And Tyron saying he hasn't signed anything yet, but I hope they make the fight. They already did it. Tyron knocked him out early. Took the belt. Fantastic fight. This is Robbie's chance to get it back.
You got to think about it at one time as fans. This is a fight that we never thought we'd see again because, for obvious reasons, Tyron was stopping everybody. Whether it was fun to watch or not, Robbie got knocked out from there, lost his belt, had to play around that division for a while, had to fight a lot of big fights, then fight some fights that maybe he shouldn't have. You know, fighting Cowboy, I love Cowboy. That was probably not a fight that he needed to fight to get back in contention, but he had to stay active.
Then you had that 5-round fight against RDA.
You got fights like that all of them, there was so much money on the line for both of them. But the thing is, Tyron always came out on top. Always kept his belt, always ready to go. They're back to square one now. You don't have a belt, I don't have a belt. Let's go do what we did before, and let's see if I can go farther than the first round, and let's really see how this fight goes, because Robbie is a 4-fight round fighter. He likes those long fights. The McDonald fights back in the day. I think we can get the old Robbie Lawler of the McDonald days where he is just going to put it on you, take a shit ton of damage, but also say, look, eventually I'm going to find your weakness, I'm going to finish you out.
I hope we see a couple more of those from Robbie Lawler. I am beginning to think of him the way I thought of Condit on his way out. Like, this dude's been through a lot of wars. All he does is put on great fights.
Against Robbie.
And then he starts getting finished quick. Not that this is happening to Robbie Lawler.
No.
I mean, this was a quick decision this time, but he didn't get knocked out. The RDA fight went to decision. He's lost a couple, but for some reason I have that in my head that could happen to him.
It could.
And I don't want to see that happening. He's 36, but from what I can tell from that Ben Askren fight, he can still light your head up.
That was the scariest I've seen him look, and the most prepared. Coming off a knee surgery like he had, that was a long recovery. He looked in best in shape, just as fast, just as angry, and that's the good thing. Woodley's safe, but with someone like Robbie, they're going to want to throw. There's not going to be maybe as much wrestling. I hope not. That's what I hope. But if that happens, this is the rematch that people have been wanting to see. We're going to see, hopefully. And this is, again, going to make people get interested even more in the welterweight division, because win or lose to either one of these guys, someone's looking awesome.
I have to be honest. This is not a rematch I wanted to see.
Really?
Yeah, this wasn't on my radar of fights I wanted to see.
Because you probably haven't thought about it.
Exactly. And then they announced, I'm like, oh,
I forgot.
That'd be great. Yeah.
This is an opportunity now.
Yeah, for some reason it was not even on my list of ideas of fights to make for either of them.
No.
But I'm glad they did, and I think it's a good fight I want to watch.
Yep.
We got Ben Askren, speaking of him, and Jorge Masvidal.
It's funny. Thought we just talked about this.
Yeah. So we had talked very, very recently about both of these guys and their possibility of fighting each other, and thinking that Jorge would not take this fight because he doesn't want Ben Askren's wrestling style. I don't think the fight's official yet, but it sounds like he'll take the fight.
It's a verbal agreement on both of them. I'll be honest, I know we talked about it before. A side piece this to go into this. Leon Edwards right now is getting absolutely fucked.
He's got to be so pissed.
Leon Edwards, after winning on the co-main event fight in his home country, did not move at all in rankings.
No, and people were probably rooting for Gunnar Nelson in that fight.
People probably were rooting for Gunnar Nelson. Now Leon is pushed to the side instantly after.
He's actually dropped in the rankings since then.
Oh my goodness.
Because
okay.
I think Pettis came up and jumped
Well,
up.
Okay, and I'll have to give that, because Pettis, you have to look at the pound-for-pound opportunity there. You had someone that had all the cards thrown way out of the way against them, and Pettis said, no, I'm putting them all back in the deck and I'm going to score on you. He did. But Leon Edwards is going nowhere with anything right now. No one's asking him for fights. Masvidal with the three-piece in a soda, who cares? I'm going to go find somebody else. And that's the fun part, is now that's only going to put more fuel in Leon. So whoever fucking wins this fight, if it happens, Leon's going to come out and it's going to be an absolute marketing brawl. Because he's like, you guys have taken so much from me. Darren Till took a shit from me.
Askren's talking shit about him too, about how he needs to promote himself better.
He's not. He's sitting around waiting on his promoters and his manager, and guess what? Apparently they're mute. Because when is the last time you've heard about Leon Edwards in anything that wasn't getting hit in the face, talking about not getting enough respect, or bitching about not fighting Darren Till? Okay, you're pissed. Darren Till got knocked out. He got knocked out by Masvidal. If you want to go fight with him, then get your promoters on the side and get a hold of Masvidal. Masvidal doesn't care. He wants a fight that moves him up.
Yeah.
He obviously sees that Leon Edwards is not moving up, so why fight him?
Leon Edwards didn't like, it almost hurt him.
It hurt him, honestly,
hurt him,
and I think,
which is crazy.
And I think that, unfortunately, right now isn't great, but down the road is going to fuel for fire. But going back to the main topic, Masvidal Askren is absolutely perfect because this is a test for both. Hey,
it's a good test for both.
Askren, let's go and see if you can take more punches from a guy. Now, I'm not comparing Masvidal's punching to Robbie Lawler. Good God. I don't want to... It's close, but Darren Till, we all thought, was going to put Masvidal out, and he put him on his back, and he woke back up from the dead and put Darren Till into sleep land.
Yeah.
Let's see if Askren can do that again, but at the same time, Masvidal, now we have a whole nother gamut. We got a guy that is an Olympic wrestler, completely different style, and by the way, he knows how to not get hit. So if Askren can really do what he's been saying, I don't want to get hit. I didn't get hit for almost 2 fights before Robbie. Let's see if he can finally match up with that, because that will be the interesting point. Can you stay away from dangerous hands again?
I think we'll see how much Masvidal has learned in the last 2 years. Do you remember that Damian Maia fight?
Absolutely.
That's what comes to mind for me in this match.
Being smothered.
Yes. I mean, as soon as Maia got a hold of him, he didn't give him any space. He was making him carry his weight the entire time. He couldn't land anything big. Not that he was taking much damage, but he was being controlled for the entirety of two of those rounds. And I thought it was a class in how to win in MMA using jiu-jitsu on the part of Maia. So we'll see if he lets Askren do that to him. If he does, then he's the same old Jorge Masvidal. He could just knock you out at any time. But if he can handle it, then I think he is a title contender type guy.
I think the cool part about this too is Masvidal is not going to be a Robbie where he wants to maybe hit you with a big shot and then go down and try to land you with 9 shots. He's a very pop shotter. Cut you, come in and out. But also, what I said last time we talked, he loves making sure that people that come at him and want to finish him, he will put those counter punches in to finish you back. And I think that's something that maybe Askren is not used to seeing. So, okay, you come in for a shoot, I miss. He's gonna
hit him.
You better hit him right.
Yeah.
So, and I think that's what's going to happen is both of these guys have a chance. Does the chance work out in their favor? Because if it doesn't, we already seen what's happened. Darren Till's still waking up, finding out about it, and Robbie Lawler's sitting in a press conference going, why the fuck am I here talking about losing? Yeah. So, really excited for that. I hope the verbal agreement goes to paper. I think it will.
Like
Dana, come on. It's a July fight. Neither of these guys have big damage. Let's go.
Yeah, I'm hearing it's in Chicago at 238. I'm hearing it's in Vegas at 239. So I don't think anything's official yet, but it sounds like the fight's happening. And
it's not a long time away, kids. It's 4-2 today. It's not a long time as fighting goes.
Pretty sure the co-main event of that 239 card at Fight Week in Vegas is going to be Amanda Nunes defending her title against Holly Holm. And this is the fight that apparently the Aspen Ladd fight fell through because of, and now it's taking place. Holly signed a new contract, I believe.
Yes.
And is looking to get this 235 belt. I think she's most recently fought at 145. And this is going to be for the 135 belt. And obviously Amanda Nunes owns both belts.
Yeah, I like this, and I also want to talk more about it because I think this is a forgotten fight. Because the women's division, especially at those higher weight classes, there's a lot of women that are forgot. It's always what I talk about, like Megan Anderson with the featherweight division and women's.
There's like how many featherweights?
Exactly.
Like 8.
There's not many. So we want to build that up. But this is no better time than to drop down to that bantam and say, hey, let's be recognized again. People have to remember the things Holly Holm has done. And I'm not just saying the Ronda fights. Yes, she lost to Miesha Tate being tapped out cold. That was a different decade. That was a hell of a fight. You have a new absolute caliber with Amanda Nunes' hands. You have a woman right now that probably could tattoo guys in the lightweight division if she gets her hands on them. To where Holly Holm has 700 tools in the toolbox. Coming from Jackson Wink, you're going to get oblique kicks. You're going to get switch kicks. You're going to get roundhouse kicks. Every body shot you can imagine, and speed. Amanda Nunes has one thing that Holly Holm does not have, and that is absolute ripping your face off power. Amanda Nunes went in and made Chrissy Cyborg, who was the scariest woman in the world, look like somebody that had just had their debut. But we all have to remember one thing. Cyborg lands 2 punches faster than Amanda did and clips Amanda. That fight's different. I'm not saying she loses. She doesn't get the finisher that quick. If Holly can play her distance game that she always has had with someone like Amanda, who's a headhunter, she can survive. She has to survive until her time to strike. That's the difference. I have Amanda winning this just from sheer power. At the same time, I know Holly Holm can last out rounds to say, I'll wait till the 3rd round and wait for you to get a little tired and throw something stupid, and then I'll go around you and maybe try to grab your back and then get you in a position, not even try to submit you, get you out of your stand-up bang game. Problem is, Amanda clips you once, you don't even get a chance. And by the way, look, it's not that old, but Holly Holm is 37 and she has been in boxing, kickboxing, and MMA for a very long time. Someone like Amanda Nunes, who has not really been challenged in the last 3 years, that's tough cookie to swallow right now to go in for an event like that.
Oh, yeah. Amanda Nunes is scary.
She's a very scary woman, but range is the factor for Holm. Aggression and punching power is Amanda's every time win. There's nothing to question that's how she's going to win.
They're probably both going to want to stand up.
Yeah.
It's just going to be how the pace is dictated.
This is not a Ronda Rousey situation where you make her look foolish for a while and wait for her to fuck up, because Ronda Rousey wasn't throwing hands. Amanda Nunes is throwing baseball bats at you. This is a different game.
Mm-hmm. So that'll be the co-main event, and looks like the main event is going to be Jon Jones against Thiago Santos.
Man.
So they ended up making the fight.
Hey, we've talked about it for weeks.
Yeah.
We're glad it happened because it all makes sense. And trust me, you could be at a bar and never watch a UFC fight. That comes on, you're probably going to watch it. Honestly.
Oh, yeah. That'll be a good one. We'll see. Well, I guess. I don't know if it'll be a good one. I think it was the right one to make. And we'll see where they go from here. I know it was the same thing as the
Anthony Smith.
Gustafsson Smith fight. Yeah, where Gustafsson and Corey Anderson agree to a fight on Twitter. Then an hour later, it's announced that Gustafsson's fighting Anthony Smith. This was Jon Jones earlier in the day tweeting that he's going to fight Stipe Miocic in July. Who wants to see that? And then 2 hours later, he's fighting Thiago Santos in July. But yeah, so that's going to be at least 2 championship fights on that UFC 239 card. And likely this will be the main event because Jon Jones' name is on it.
I got to tell you what right now, Sean Shelby better have every phone playing in the world because his phone has to be going off every day and night for fights setting up.
Can you imagine?
The fights that this guy has to try to line up with names that are knocking at the door that just did something huge. You know, just like a Masvidal, like we talked about, a Pettis, Santos, Anthony Smith at one point. At the big boy guy levels. Then you got the women lower that are doing shit. You got your Macy Barbers coming out of nowhere, cutting people up, making a name. That guy is making some of the best fights this year that I've seen in a while. Not only that makes sense.
I think most of the fights make sense, which is great.
They make sense, which is great to see because you don't ever want to see the old Lesnar days. You know, look, I'm all about watching a Lesnar fight, but I'm not about watching Mark Hunt fight Lesnar when he's on the juice, when everybody knew it at 200. I'm about watching fights where, like, this guy's earned it, this guy's been talking shit to him, this guy's been doing this, let's match it up. All this fits the card. On top of all the performances fall in line, Santos became the new Anthony Smith. Like you said and you and me argued in the beginning of the season, you're next in line. Go fight Jon Jones. All of these fights that we just talked about are exact fights that need to happen now because what we always say, they're available, they're healthy, they're ready to go. Everything about this year right now, the way this comes out, we're going to be into fucking September. There's going to be names on this list we're talking about again, saying the same shit. Who's he going to fight? Oh, this looks good. Next day, verbal commit. Everybody wants to fight this year. There's nobody sitting around except one person. Stipe Miocic.
Oh, yeah.
And that's why you just brought it up. Stipe Miocic will take that Jon Jones fight. He's going to watch how this Santos fight turns out.
Yeah.
Because he wants to see a guy that comes in that's a different style, lower weight class, smaller size. How does he go against Jon? Okay, is it typical? Do you just get busted up in light heavyweight? Okay, cool. Let's go ahead and fucking have something happen at heavyweight, or vice versa. Jon miraculously happens to lose. Jon's now got a new chip on his shoulder. What better time to have a redemption? Hi, I'm Stipe Miocic. I have one of the most decorated heavyweight belts of all time. Jon, come on up and let's see if you want to play in a new ball field. It's perfect. It's absolutely perfect.
Yeah, I mean, like I said on the very first podcast, that was one of the fights I wanted to see made this year was Stipe and Jon Jones. I think it'd be a fantastic fight. I'd definitely be more interested than Jon Jones and Thiago Santos. But like I said, I think it makes sense, being that he's been out of the division for a while, that if he wants to be the light heavyweight champion, he should at least take all comers for now.
Yep.
And it looks like Santos is the next comer.
Santos is a wild guy, though.
Anderson gets a chance to be the next one.
Well, you know, I agree with that. I was just going to say, Santos is a wild guy, so whether win or lose, people are not going to probably be disappointed. Okay, I know we talk about guys that are boring sometimes. Have you ever seen a boring Santos fight, whether he gets knocked out or not? Even the David Branch fight when he got knocked out, when he knocked him out. Same thing here. Corey Anderson's next in line now. Okay, cool. Corey Anderson's very enjoyable to watch fight. Like I've said before, you take that OSP head kick knockout, that's something that always sits in the back of my head. That showed the vulnerability of Corey. In this sport, you can throw anything and it happens to land, it works out great. Corey doesn't take that, no problem. So Corey now has a redemption to say, okay, I'm at the top. I got to make a statement, because if not, going back down, man, is just such a fucking tough road. And he's already seen it. He's already fucking seen it.
Especially after having the success set up here.
Yep.
Speaking of Stipe in the heavyweight division, one other big fight that was announced for that 239 card in Vegas, Junior Dos Santos and Francis Ngannou. And those are two heavyweights that are taking fights right now, and that'll be a good one as long as it lasts.
That's the thing, is that's a first round fight to me, and that's also one that I'm throwing a coin, I'm throwing a dart blind, and that's it. Because I can tell you right now, I have no idea who's going to win that. It's going to be whatever hand hits the face
first.
Sign
me up, though.
No, I'm there. I'm there, absolutely. I just think there is no way you're predicting that, whether you want to say Santos has been around longer and has more experience, or you want to say Francis has more power. We've seen Santos do a lot of big things this year, especially after all the USADA shit he had. And then you have Francis that basically came back from possibly being a name that everyone said flopped.
Oh, yeah, he was in a bad spot, and he recovered for sure.
So that's the coolest thing about for both of these guys is kind of two different roads that they're getting ready to blaze right here, which I think is awesome.
Yeah, so that is, there's 3 huge fights there, possibly 4, I guess, for the 239 card. So that's going to be a monster card.
Buckle up for that.
There'll probably be big events all weekend, that weekend in July. But yeah, those are the fights that were just announced. So now we'll get into last weekend's cards. The first fight last weekend was Alex Perez's debut in the Bantamweight division.
Yes,
he was previously a ranked fighter in the Flyweight division and came up to 135 to fight Mark De La Rosa. And Mark De La Rosa got made to look like a fool, I guess. I mean, he was on the bad side of ground and pound for damn near 15 minutes.
You know, coming in with him, I thought he was going to do a little bit more than he did. But Perez, very impressive just to make it to where I'm going to take you down the mat all 3 rounds. I'm going to score points. By the way, I'm going to make sure pressure's on you so you don't really get to do anything that you want to do, like takedowns or anything else. He basically made De Rosa not have anything that he could use against him. There was never a time that Perez was like, I need to back off, I need to chill out.
Yeah, every once in a while you'd throw a half-ass submission attempt, but nothing that was really scary. I didn't feel like, and
a fight
Perez was lighting him up from on top.
He was. There was and you know that might be again what we always talk about when guys fluctuate between divisions. You get to find out what division maybe you like more, what division you get more tactics out of. I honestly think he just overwhelmed La Rosa, and I think it's a perfect example of Mark De La Rosa is not ready where he's at right now. He's on a 2-fight streak that just got snapped. At the same time, Perez, who made his octagon debut to a loss against Joseph Benavidez, you know, he's got a lot of opportunity now from this. I just think,
another
honestly,
guy who
Oh, yeah.
If you lose your first one in the UFC and then you start the winning streak.
He's right there, and especially come up a weight class. And my thing that I hated to see, this fight was not a fight I wanted to see this card open up with, but I felt so happy for Perez because everything fell in line for him. New weight class, new domination, new opportunity.
Yeah, he looked good. He looked good for sure. The next one we want to talk about was Marina Moraes and Sabina Matzo.
Yeah, another one that when it started, I was like, okay, we got two girls here that, have had some experience, obviously throw a lot of kicks, throw a lot of options, but takedown attempts just were not successful for Moraes. I really think her striking output was just a little bit different. It was a little bit less. Matzo eventually found herself on her back, and that was basically it. Once she had that happen, Moraes, basically went in and said, hey, I'm going to take advantage of you. Got obviously her nose bleeding there, so that obviously is a factor, kind of like what we talked about in the Yana fight. You break your nose, or let's say your nose is bleeding, it's something that's not going to help your breathing, not going to help your cardio. Honestly, I think for Moraes, that was a huge fight to win because that snapped a 2-fight skid for her. And obviously, too, at her first fight was at flyweight. So this fight was at flyweight. So that shows maybe she found her right weight class. She said she felt good. She said she felt a lot more powerful. Again, an example of somebody that comes in, finds their weight class. Wasn't the most exciting fight, but again, I'm rooting for people that change weight classes and do something, and she did something. She won. Sabina, I think she could have been there, but I don't think she did enough to even give a chance at winning a decision, honestly.
And probably the biggest surprise of the night was the fact that Casey Kenny came in and beat Ray Borg 6 days after he had just won the championship of his previous organization.
I'm amazed they allowed that, honestly.
Or I guess 8 days.
It doesn't matter. It's under 2 weeks.
Honestly, I don't. There's no way that anyone ever has an 8-day medical suspension from the UFC fight.
Zero.
Even if you don't take any damage at all, they're giving you like a 30-day medical suspension or something.
Just a review in case something happens. Look, you said it best last time. Ray Borg needed a fight. Ray Borg has had fights that not have happened that were guaranteed to happen, and unfortunately between the Connor bus incident and just him in general having his other stuff going on with opponents, they wanted to see a fight for him to win, to get back in, to have his name out there for his child who has had some unfortunate stuff, and I feel so bad for him. I don't like seeing what happened in that fight because exactly what happened when you push against the grain so hard, I almost feel like the hype for Ray Borg, especially after missing weight, it didn't make sense anymore.
This was a bantamweight fight, right?
Yes.
And Ray Borg's been fighting at flyweight.
Yes, that's my point.
He missed his bantamweight fight by 3 pounds, I think?
2.5.
2.5?
Almost 3.
So he had to forfeit 30% of half of his purse because he only got half of his purse because he didn't get the win. That's unfortunate.
It's to me, every scenario in that did not make sense, but we all know with heart why we're doing it. Ray Borg has been through absolutely crazy shit that none of us have been through. He's been trying to find fights, make fights happen, they don't happen, but the sheer fact that you're in bantamweight, like you said, and you didn't make your weight, you also didn't do anything in the fight to make yourself stand out that you can win this. And by the way, you have to put in your head, we all love underdogs. I do, at least. I love seeing an underdog win. Casey Kenny has 0 to lose in this. I come in, I knock this guy out. Obviously, I'm going to have my name out there. I'm going to be really excited to have my name put into serious contention down the road. I lose, everybody already expects me to lose. So Ray Borg has to put that in his head. I am going to fight a guy that's going to do everything tooth and nail to beat me. Ray Borg did nothing to stop that. I really don't think. I know the decision was 50-50. Ray Borg fighting a guy that came in on 8-day notice in that weight class after you miss weight, there shouldn't even be a first round. You have to make it to where that guy didn't even have a chance. That guy should not be even fighting in your caliber.
Is that true, though? What does this say for Casey Kenny?
It shows obviously how talented he is.
Yeah, he may be the next dude.
But that's what I'm saying. All I wanted to say is, as an underdog, he did everything he should have. Ray Borg did everything opposite. Ray Borg should go out there and say, this guy's not even in my class.
Yes.
This guy shouldn't even be fighting me. And by the way, I should be making weight. I'm not fighting at flyweight. I'm fighting at bantamweight. I should already be ready for this class. Ray Borg did nothing. That's where I have a huge problem with this fight is I want to support Ray for his family. I can't support you doing everything wrong up to the fight and expecting you to win.
Yeah.
Decision points or not. There was takedowns by Ray. There was takedowns by Kenny. I don't give a fuck. Finish the fight so nobody's awake except you at the end of it. That's all I want.
Right. I don't think Ray Borg did enough to be upset with the decision the way that he is, but I understand why he'd be frustrated. Yeah. But like I said, this is a big deal for Casey Kenny. He just became a 2-division champion in LFA. He
came over.
He came over and beats Ray Borg, who, like I said, this was a bantamweight fight, but as a flyweight has about as much name pool as anyone.
I was just going to say he's a recognizable name in the industry. You're always going to know. And trust me, that's not going to help Ray Borg staying in the flyweight. You better be comfortable at bantam and learn your weight now, boy, because right now there's not going to be a flyweight after that.
Right. So now I mean, I think this looks good for Casey Kenny, and if he gets a couple wins against ranked opponents. Well, we'll see what happens with the top of the bantamweight division.
Yeah, that's going to change a lot here in a couple weeks.
If the flyweight division sticks around and he goes down to fight flyweight, he's going to get big fights right away.
Absolutely.
So that's a big one for him. Following that fight, Kevin Holland beat Gerald, I believe, Mearstart in by a split decision.
Yeah, my thing is I've seen fights with Mearstart before with Gerard. He has got exhausted and kind of blown his tank early, and I saw that happen again. Trust me, he had a lot of good attempts for submissions, a lot of ground movement, everything else. Holland took advantage of him once he got tired, and he basically kicked out the leg of him and put in a trip, and then all of a sudden the momentum swung to Holland where he goes, I got control, I can start throwing chokes around, I can start throwing, Kimura's stuff. And by the way, Gerard's already tired, so he's on the ground, using even more energy. So if he does stand up, he's not going to have the energy and the defense that he normally had at that point. So I honestly think Holland played a great game to basically say, I'm going to touch you up, I'm going to get my points where I can, you're tired. If I can finish you, great. If not, you've not really done anything in a round and a half. I know that the funniest thing to me at the end is Holland said, he goes, I don't like fights that aren't stand-up trade back and forth.
Yeah.
But you know what I love doing? Is beating a guy at their own game. Gerard is a ground guy. He likes putting people in those submissions, putting you in an arm and head choke. Basically, Holland reversed that on him and said, I'm going to go do it to you now. So it's kind of cool to see a guy say, I'm going to play your level and I'm going to beat you at it. He didn't choke him out. He didn't fucking ground and pound his face in. He won by decision. He did what he needed to. Mearstart is not a fucking small name in the middleweight division, but a loss like that really hurts him because now Kevin Holland just basically made you tired in a match for no reason. It's obviously not going to help Mearstart, and Kevin Holland can be considered somebody that, well, maybe let's give him a little better fight and see if he can do that again to somebody a little bit more talented.
Yeah, I heard him say that he didn't like how much grappling.
He didn't. He said, I'm against it.
Too much. It was too intimate for him.
Yeah. He said, I don't want to be up next to you touching cheeks and touching elbows. He goes, I want to trade and bang. Which, guess what? Who doesn't want to see that in the middleweight division?
What people want to watch.
Yeah, so let's go ahead and do it.
Yep. Following that fight, Kevin Aguilar beat Enrique Barzola also by decision. What do you think of that?
There was a lot of jabs and hooks up front from Aguilar to the body, which, to me, he was being the aggressor. So he was touching him up. He was giving the punch and kick volume. Even his corner told him, hey, to work your wrestling defense. You're touching him up. He's going to come inside on you. He's going to try to take you down, score some points, ground and pound. A lot of straight punches that just basically were good shots that counted points. There were some hard shots, but these guys were trading giant shots and not landing. So you can swing 50 shots in a row and hit one of them. It's not going to score well on the card. So there was no wrestling advantage at all for Barzola. So really, Aguilar touched up on the points. He looked fresher. He looked cleaner. He threw a lot more hooks and jabs, like I said. So he looked like the presser during the fight. again, I hate to see that so many decisions in a card, especially at featherweight, man. We've talked about it. They're so fast.
You're going to get a lot of decisions at featherweight.
Well, you are, but the speed a lot of times, even though with the lighter weight, you hope there's a couple guys in there that can take people's heads off.
Or wrap him up and choke him out.
Well, it's a reason why I've been talking about why I love Marlon Vera from Bantamweight. I think Marlon Vera moving up to a featherweight would be fantastic because he likes to throw those hands. He has big punches. He's going to trade with guys like this, and I can promise you, whether it's him or somebody else, they're not going to go to decision. I want to see more, we're going to talk about it later. We've had a lot of guys in featherweight. When you have these guys unranked, I hate to see decisions here because either one of them knocks one of each other out. That's an absolute monster image for everybody to see in that type of card. But same time, it's a great card. At least the guys were interactive. It wasn't wrestling for 15 minutes on the ground and someone landed one elbow and you're tired.
And then one of the biggest upsets on the card was Desmond Green's performance on Ross Pearson. He's a plus 325 underdog. And he knocks him out in the first round, or I guess a TKO by stoppage, but he looked very impressive.
I'm pretty upset, honestly, from watching Desmond that he was considered an underdog. And this is nothing against Ross Pearson, but this is not Ross Pearson's second year in the UFC, okay? Ross Pearson has been around and has fought Uriah Faber. So if anyone knows, Uriah Faber has been retired almost 3 years now. Ross Pearson has been around, yep, we know, we talked about that. Ross Pearson has been around, okay? Ross Pearson is tough as nails. He's tatted up. He looks tough, everything else. Desmond Green is coming in trying to make a statement. Ross has to realize that. You can't be talking shit towards him and as fast he was. And I tell you what, you think Ross Pearson's cut up. Desmond Green looked fucking great.
He was shredded.
He was shredded. His head with the dreads, he looked like the Predator, which is awesome. But I was very impressed with Desmond because, as usual, Pearson wanted to come out and trade hands. Green had no problem with that. He said, absolutely. And then guess what? When I want to try to get you inside, I'm going to clip you, put you up against the fence, and then finish him with a ground and pound. All Desmond wanted to do is have that one punch to stun Ross, put him in a vulnerable position, which he did against the cage, ground and pound him. It was over. I don't think Pearson went in with a game plan. He went in aggressive like he always does. I think Desmond bought his time, and guess what? It panned out terrific because he had a TKO victory out the gate in lightweight. That's awesome.
Yep, that looked good for him for sure. Getting into the main card, we watched Sadiq Yusuff defeat Shimon Moraes by decision, and I think that was correct. I think he did win.
Yeah, very dominant.
The third, but dropped the second round. He looked pretty good, but I don't know. He called out Cron Gracie afterwards.
I like that and I don't like that. That's just such a left field comment. And, I know a lot of guys want to prove their jiu-jitsu and prove their wrestling and everything else. Let's match you up with some guys that are entertaining. Let's always think back to what people complained about in the early 2000s of UFC. When the grappling, when the wrestling. People don't want to see people wrestle for 15 minutes or sometimes 25 minutes. How many times you turned on a Saturday at 2 p.m. and say, hey, Mom, do you want to watch fucking NCAA Wrestling Championship? Nah. It's not that fun unless you have a family member or know somebody other. That's not a knock to NCAA Wrestling. That's why UFC has become so popular because people say, hey, I'm going to wrestle you for one round, but next round I might knock you out. Or maybe I'll turn your arm inside out. There is different opportunities. Wrestling only has a couple. People don't want to see that. And I think that's why this was a boring fight a little bit, is there was a lot of that trying to take you to the ground, trying to smother you, and then guess what? Showing that balance back and forth, really not much got done except for, Yusuff to basically say, I controlled the whole fight. That's all it came down to.
So, yeah, he looked good. I don't know if he'll get a Cron Gracie or not.
No.
But
no.
That fight, he looks good. That was followed up by Paul Craig, who defeated Kennedy Njoku in the submission with 40 seconds left in the fight.
Paul won. I just love his Scottish accent, and I you can barely understand him. He literally sounds off Braveheart, but that's also why I like him, because that guy went from the weigh-in to the early face-offs to the final face-offs. I'm going to take your face-off. I don't think he ever stopped the pressure. His pressure and ground taking with his wrestling and his submissions, super strong. I was very impressed. And obviously, yeah, you got a submission in round 3. At that weight class of light heavyweight, you're going to be a little bit more tired. But I think Paul never gave up on his plan. Wear you down. I might take a little damage, but eventually I'm going to find my time to put you in a choke. And it was out. And it worked out perfect. And you know what? Good for Paul, because a fight like that puts his name right back into the winner's circle of people remembering who he is.
Yep, that's good. It's a win. It's on ESPN card, so a lot of people saw it. That's a good one for him. Michelle Waterson didn't get the finish, but she did look pretty good in a pretty dominant win, I thought, against Karolina Kowalkiewicz.
She's got to stay at strawweight. She said, she even said, she goes, this is the best I've ever looked. They had that E60 on her, E60, E30, like I said. She looked great, positive attitude, looked healthy. I think it's a great weight class for her because she goes up a weight class, the hands get bigger, and I don't think Michelle wants the hands. I think Michelle wants to stay at a technical fight, very much what she did against Carolina. And don't fucking get it twisted. Yes, Carolina got knocked out by Andrade. I can get knocked out by Andrade, and I'm 6'2", 190. Trust me, that girl throws bombs. You miss up in that division, that's what happens. But Michelle's playing that technical fight. I think she did exactly what she wanted. Keep the distance. Don't let Carolina play her fight. Don't let her do something interesting and do something that's going to catch me off guard. Played a perfect fight. Probably played the fight that she should have played against Rose.
Yeah, she looked good. By the way, I think you're like the shortest 6'2" I've ever seen.
Thanks. Hey, man, I'm down to 169 or 179, so I don't even say 190 anymore.
No, but Michelle Waterson looked good. She came in an underdog.
Yeah.
She got a convincing win. She did say she wants a title shot, so I don't know that she gets a title shot next, but I think maybe she gets she's one out from a title shot.
You know what I'd actually love to see, but it's not going to happen, especially with Paige having the situation with her arm again. I would love to see if Paige could ever come back down the strawweight. I don't think she will because she loves that flyweight weight class and it's better for her. She doesn't cut as much weight. I would love to see her and Paige go at it. But if you're going to stay at the strawweight, there is limitless names that go in there. I don't think at all, Michelle touches anybody that's going to be in contention here soon. I think she's got to prove herself one more time because Carolina, you got to remember, just came off a monster knockout there to Andrade. So I honestly think with a win like that, Waterson moves up well. I don't know if she fights anyone crazy. I really think what we talked about a couple weeks ago.
We got Tatiana Suarez and Antarab.
Well, that's already happening.
Contender.
I think you give her reveal Zhang.
Weili Zhang, yeah.
Weili Zhang.
Yeah.
I think that, Korean, or, let's go ahead and do a fun fight there. But I think that fight makes sense because you got somebody coming back in the weight class of strawweight that's a popular name. You have Zhang that's obviously trying to go right up the rank. Yeah, she's on an absolute tear and trying to get to that belt quick. What better person? Oh my God.
Yeah.
What better fight to set up, and especially when you have two people that are not American, or they are American, not American heritage. That's an interesting fight to have. But at the same time, there is so many great fights to have. Like we said, the Tatiana fight would make sense.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of fights going on this summer that are going to change where where the rankings are, and probably a fight gets made after that.
Yeah.
But I think that she is one fight away from being a title contender.
Claudia is a great fight for her too if they let her take someone that high because Claudia is always enjoyable, and trust me, if you beat Claudia, you're going into a new realm of weight or basically tier class to fight against. So that'd be cool to see.
And then the next fight was Michael Johnson and Josh Emmett. Your bet for last week was on Michael Johnson as a minus 110. He looked good for the entire fight, I thought that he won every round I watched. And then Josh Emmett lit him up with 40 seconds left in the fight, and that was a big punch for Josh Emmett. That was a big punch.
One, I got to give you props because we talked about it, is you never had confidence in Michael Johnson. And I understand why. I had confidence in Michael Johnson for a couple reasons. He's been in an Edson Barboza fight that he won later in his career. He's been in monster fights like the Dustin Poirier, even a younger Dustin Poirier, and put him out. Michael also came on some really tough fights that he lost. He had the Justin Gaethje fight, which I know crushed his confidence because he thought, this is a newcomer that I'm going to show this is a new level, and that newcomer beat me. I thought Michael would come out and do exactly...
He's fought a lot of big names.
Oh, my God.
Khabib.
Oh, well, that alone.
All of these fights.
But I have to remember, those are 6-7 years ago.
Yeah.
My thing about Michael Johnson is, after this last couple years, what's been going on, I thought he'd have that hunger to come out, and he did. And he had that. He did the Michael Johnson is not going to knock you out in one punch. Michael Johnson's not going to put you into submission. Michael Johnson's going to decide, I'm going to keep touching you up, I'm going to hurt you, and I'm going to wait for my opportunity to put on enough punches. And if I got to win by a decision, who cares? As long as I had the punch volume. He fucking had that. But exactly what you said. Josh Emmett played his game. I'm going to wait for some takedowns.
He was looking to make that
I wanted to wait until he was vulnerable, and he waited. And I tell you what, that was one of the best fakes I've seen to a lower body shot that he turned into an overhand right and stuck Johnson. It was over.
You see how far his spit flew?
Look good.
Like, several feet.
But I have to go back and say I apologize to Josh Emmett because I really didn't think he would do what he did. And he showed, you got to remember, Josh Emmett came off a 10-month injury. This guy was out a while. He had a lot of stuff going on in his life. For him to come back and knock out Michael Johnson the way he did, it shows he's still the real deal.
For him, yeah.
He's had the Lamas knockout. Yes, the Jeremy Stevens, whether you think it's a fucking disqualification, legal knee, or whatever else, he took a punch, he went down. If he would have got back up, he could have done the same thing to Jeremy Stevens he did to Michael Johnson, and right now we're all going, well, hell, Josh Emmett could be the next big thing.
He needs to be up there.
This still made Josh Emmett the next big thing because everything that people know him to do, he did, and he finished it, and it was a terrific fight. Absolutely terrific fight.
Terrific finish, that's for sure. And like I said, Michael Johnson looked good.
He didn't finish. Michael didn't finish. Emmett did.
Yep. After that fight, Jack Hermanson defeated David Branch, and that was a quick one. David Branch was my bet coming in at
0-2 for you and me. Doing well.
He was even money. And that one didn't last very long at all. David Branch now is this fight less than a minute. Last fight
with Rockhold.
Less than a minute into the second round.
Or Santos and then Rockhold, correct?
No, actually, Cannonier before that.
Oh, that's right. They gave him that.
Santos, Rockhold. He's 3 of his last 4. Haven't got out of the second round. On the losing side of it, he's been struggling. I don't know where he goes from here. I mean, he came in as a World Series of Fighting light heavyweight champion, World Series of Fighting middleweight champion. But now he's 36, 37. Does he have a future in this middleweight division?
Not at all. I'm not hating on and saying what I said last week. I said David Branch would have a similar Rockhold situation. He did. And I'm not giving myself props. I'm saying that I think David Branch, when he was in World Series of Fighting, he's a big dude. He has a lot of power. He has a lot of control. He's got his black belt. I think when he gets in dangerous or vulnerable positions, he panics. And I think that's what happened with Jack. He saw a guy panicking, all of a sudden got him down, guillotine, over, tap. He took advantage of a guy that was vulnerable, did it. Branch, on hands, will knock the fuck out of 50% of the guys in that division if you put him toe-to-toe. If he misses and someone takes him into a situation where he's vulnerable, like I said, Jack Marshman just showed that again that happens. Same with Rockhold.
So Jack Hermanson just beat the number 11 middleweight pretty convincingly. Who do you think he gets moving forward?
I got a great fight that maybe some people don't know much about because they might have forgot about it because it's happened a while ago. Bevan Lewis. Bevan Lewis just lost to Uriah Hall on a 3rd round absolutely monster TKO from Uriah Hall. When Uriah Hall, on paper and looking at it, might have lost to a decision. Finished Bevan. Bevan's an upcomer. Uriah Hall, came in and had been struggling and made a big statement against a younger guy to show, hey, you can't come in there. This is striker versus wrestler sub kind of type of dominant mentality. I think this is very similar to David Branch, but you got a younger guy, show a little bit of difference. See if Jack can do the same thing to him. Plus, I watched Bevan Lewis. He's entertaining at that weight class. Let's fucking let that happen.
So I was actually thinking Uriah Hall, who just beat Bevan Lewis.
We're okay. I like both of them.
Yeah, so I think both of those would be good fights. I think that's probably. I don't think he should get too much higher in that middleweight rankings.
I don't think numbers
it shows
move.
More about David Branch than it does about Jack. Well, I don't know. Equally, I think David Branch moves out of the top 15. I think he won't be ranked again without a big win.
No, he drops below. I think he drops below 20, and I think he fights a guy that's, not that you have rankings in the 20s, but maybe a guy that could go to 20 in maybe 1 or 2 fights. Let David prove his way, because honestly, like you said, unfortunately, at his age in a division that ruthless, he's got to win 2 in a row to be able to even say, David, come on back up here with all your boys, because that fight did not help, because it showed 0 of his skills.
Mm-hmm. And then the main event was Justin Gaethje and Edson Barboza. And we knew it was going to be violent, and it was so violent it only lasted 2.5 minutes.
Came through always like normal. Unfortunately, you and me did not have the pick for that.
No, we both thought Edson Barboza would win. Thought he had more ways to do it. Justin Gaethje never let him get there.
No.
We both said we wouldn't be surprised if Justin Gaethje knocked him out either. So
no.
That was a pick'em fight with two pretty impressive strikers. Justin Gaethje came out on top, and now he's looking to be at the top of the lightweight division. And the unfortunate thing is, there's about 5-6 guys at the top of the lightweight division.
Well, and you absolutely finished somebody by Barboza. And you know what's crazy? I pulled something out of my way back memory. Is that fight reminded me a little bit of Jeremy Varner when he fought Barboza. Barboza was throwing those monster leg kicks, and I loved it. He'd throw one, Gage said, I'll throw it back. Then I'll throw another one. It was almost like, let's see whose leg breaks. Exactly what they talked about. Let's see whose bones crumble, who crumbles, what chin. But the Varner fight reminded me because he was kicking the shit out of Varner's legs, and then Varner landed one punch, put him into a very vulnerable, finished him. Same thing happened here with Gaethje. He said, I'm going to take some shit. It's going to hurt. It's going to suck, and I'm not going to want to do it. But once I get that open shot, I know I can finish him. That's exactly what he did to Barboza. I don't think Barboza did anything wrong. I think Justin Gaethje is exactly what we said. He is so violent that where he'll have his front 2 teeth knocked out as long as he can get an open shot on your face. And that's exactly what he did to Barboza. He found it and went with it. Yep.
Oh, yeah. It was a hell of a fight.
Where's Gaethje go from here?
I think the winner of Al and Cowboy. I think that's the. I don't think that Cowboy should be ranked in front of him, but both of those guys being ranked in front of him, the huge knockout over Edson, I think that. I mean, you get in front of Al, and you got Dustin who's fighting for the interim title. You got 3 guys who are inactive right now, and that's it. Kevin Lee's gone. Edson Barboza just lost. I mean, Justin Gaethje's the next guy. And it looks like that you got to fight the winner of that Cowboy Al fight, because you know that the title's not going to be resolved by then. So they'll be looking for the next contender after the interim contender, and that'd be the winner of that fight.
I had the exact same thing. The funny part is I had that as my second fight. The reason I had it as my second, one, obviously I want Cowboy or Al to fight him, because again, that's another unbelievable fight that no one's not going to turn on. You have Al raging going in, and you have Cowboy who's always entertaining. You also have to put in that little side piece that's still a little diamond that could be shimmering, is Pettis comes back to 155. Because Pettis says, I want the winner of this fucking fight. He can have that. Pettis can drop back down and then still fight at welterweight. If they give him the opportunity to drop back down to 155, I would love to see Justin Gaethje against Anthony Pettis. But after what he just did, I think he should stay up at welterweight. But that would be my fantasy fight. Cowboy Al absolutely needs to happen, win or lose of that.
I think Pettis has said that he wanted the winner of this fight.
He did.
But I also think Gaethje said he didn't want to fight Pettis. Before this fight, he said, "Nah, Pettis, get out of here. You're way lower in the division than me." That's what I mean. He was like a 13th ranked.
Oh, absolutely.
Lightweight.
But he also just got off a loss to fucking Tony
I
Ferguson.
know, and he didn't look terrible.
Who's now in an insane asylum.
Knocked out Stephen Thompson at welterweight.
No, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah,
It wasn't like he wasn't
Pettis,
doing dick there.
Gaethje said that he wanted Cowboy because he didn't think he should be ranked in front of him, and he wanted to avenge his loss to Dustin Poirier. And I guess if Poirier loses to Max, then that fight's available too. But
I don't know if Dustin's interested in that fight though. I think Dustin might play a Stipe card here. I think he's going to keep trying to go for the big fights, win or lose, until it's obvious he has to go down. But that also comes down to what happens in the next 4 months. Does Dustin lose? Does Gaethje fight again? And then they're lined up for like a November fight. That would make more sense. I think right now Gaethje's available and healthy, so he wants to fight tomorrow. Dustin's still got this Max fight to deal with. That could be a war. That could also be an outcome that maybe makes Dustin win, hypothetically, and then you're not even in my fucking name bracket anymore. I'm going to do bigger and better things.
Right. That's what I think.
Yep, I got you. What do you think about, real quick, who does Barboza fight?
I honestly think he takes some time off. Apparently he had his daughter the next morning. He was in a Philadelphia hospital.
Sure, that wasn't on his mind.
My gosh.
Jeez.
Yeah. Can you imagine going through that and then having a kid the next day?
No, absolutely
that
not.
Night, probably.
Absolutely not.
But yeah, so he just got knocked out. He just had a kid. I'd imagine he takes a step back. Let's see, he's got 3 of his last 4 fights are losses. I mean, you're talking Kevin Lee and Khabib and Justin Gaethje. They're all.
You have to put that
nasty
into
fighters,
effect.
but,
You have to put that in.
I think you step back for a little bit and figure out where the lightweight division goes, because there's people moving out. I mean, Pettis just moved up. Kevin Lee just moved up. Like we said, there's 3 inactive fighters at the top of the division. Yeah. The lightweight division is as clusterfuck as there is in the UFC.
It's a used car lot right now.
I wouldn't say it's a terrible time to step back, train, have some family time with your newborn, and I don't know. That's kind of what I think he'll do.
I think now hearing that news, I agree with that. I had a fight that I didn't think would happen in 3-4 months, but it could. I honestly thought he fights Gregory Gillespie.
Oh my gosh, I want to see Gregory Gillespie fight. I don't care who it's against.
but no, and that's awesome, because that's what I want to see too. My thing is, now knowing this news plus a loss plus his child, I need Gregory to go get another fight before that, because Greg doesn't need to sit. He's dominating. Right. He's coming up. Let's get him a fight. If Edson wanted to get right back into the winner's circles column, I say go and fight Gregory, because that's a perfect way to say, you either pass me or I beat you, and now I'm right back in the saying, let's go do some bigger things. So, wonderful card. I mean, I was really worried in the beginning, but then when that main card came on, you had everything. You had knockouts, you had subs, you had guys taking advantage of each other, you had draw-out fights that we thought were going to go to decision, and you have Josh Emmett put in the final piece on Michael. What else do you need?
Yeah, that it really got going. You had, I mean, ever since the main card started, all those fights were pretty entertaining. You did have the decision started off with Sudik, but
that's going to happen. That's going to happen.
I know. I mean, it was. I guess Michelle Watson also had a decision, but that was an entertaining fight. And then back to back to finish it off, you had 3rd round knockout, 1st round submission, 1st round knockout. It was a great card.
Yep.
So yeah, that was the 2nd ever ESPN card. 2 weeks from now, we have UFC 236. It's going to be two interim championship belts, middleweight and lightweight.
Big card.
But it's going to start out, the first fight we want to talk about is Polyana and Lauren Mueller. And I believe Polyana is coming into this as a slight favorite. She is, yes.
Yep.
How do you see the fight going?
Well, one, she's moving up to 125. She normally fights at strawweight. So this is big for her, making her 3rd promotional appearance. So the nice thing is she had a hell of a fight against Cynthia Calvillo out of Alpha Male, which we all know how she's been fighting lately. So that was not an easy fight. Lauren Mueller is coming off of Dana White's Contender Series, so she's got a lot to prove in this. I think this is a fight that's going to be a huge test for Mueller just because of the caliber. Not just because Polina has already fought in the promotion before. Getting into where you're not fighting just to win to be able to have a chance. She's fighting to make a name right now for herself. So I honestly think the little bit more veteranness and a little bit older, plus moving up to 125 is going to maybe help Polina to basically be able to control the fight. But I think that's going to actually be an interesting flyweight fight for those two fighters.
Also in the prelims, we have Curtis Millender, who's making a pretty quick comeback after his loss to Capoeira dos Santos against Bilal Muhammad.
You know, I've been impressed with Bilal for a while. I think he is maybe a new thing in about a year. Like I said, Curtis Millender has won some great fights. He's lost some bad fights. This is definitely a statement to say if you beat Muhammad, it's not about rankings or anything else. It's about getting better fights. He's going to be getting bigger fights to make more money, to put his name out there, because people know about Curtis. People also know about Muhammad. Muhammad wins this fight. Everybody kind of assumes, yep, I rolled over this guy. Let's move on up. Millender beats him. It's going to be a situation of where here's a couple new guys in the welterweight trying to make a statement. These are going to be fun fights. Both guys like the trade. Both guys like against the fence. I think it'd be terrific.
And then still in the prelims.
Yeah, this is only in the prelims.
A couple highly ranked flyweights, Wilson Hayes and Alexander Pantoja. And I think, I'm picking the underdog in this. I think Wilson Hayes comes up with the submission. You think Alexander is going to get the submission?
I do. Reason being is Wilson's been around a while and he's done some big things. I think a younger, hungrier fighter like this that has a little bit more good ground and pound and good sub game, I think he ends up taking Reese down and putting him in something. I'm calling a Kimura, but at that weight class, because as fast and strong as they are, I just think he might do some stuff to Wilson that he's maybe not seen since the DJ days.
So we'll get into the main event, or the main card, and that's going to get kicked off with Ovince St. Preux and Nikita Krylov. Ovince St. Preux is a slight favorite. Then we have Nikita Krylov obviously on the other side of that. I believe we both think Ovince is going to come out on top on this one.
With a little Ovince St. Preux choke. Yeah. The OSP choke now known instead of the Von Flue. It's hard not to guess that because he does it so well, he does it so often, and also that's a hell of a lot of man to be dealing with when he's on top of you, ground and pounding, taking control of you, and just putting you in submissions. I think he just really dominates. I think he takes over that fight. I think it's a great fight for Ovince St. Preux too because, he's ranked number 12 right now in that division. A win like that at least helps him. He's back in the winner's circle, so I think that's great for him.
Yeah, I think it's a big opportunity for either of them. I mean, Ovince is a big name.
Everybody knows who he is.
Nikita, it's good for Nikita if he comes out on top of that. And then if Ovince gets back in his winning ways, that'll be good for him. What do you think of Dwight Grant now and Joe Ben?
So I've watched a lot of Grant lately, and I like Dwight a lot because I think he is a new look to that division. He's very soft-spoken. He doesn't really trash talk. He's very just kind of not even a dickhead. He's just kind of like, I don't care. He's got a no carefree attitude. But the kid throws bombs, and he did that in his last fight. I think this is a fight that it's one punch away. Dwight finishes you. I like this fight a lot. This is actually my money fight that I'm picking. I'm picking Dwight because it's even money to me. It's a pick'em fight for me, so I thought it's even money. I've been very impressed with Dwight in his last two fights. He throws bombs, and honestly, I think he goes in and does enough damage up front or gets that finish to where Allen doesn't even get to play his game.
I like it. Then we all have a light heavyweight fight between Eric Anders and Khalil Roundtree. Eric Anders is the favorite. Khalil Roundtree, I believe, is his most recent fight that lost to Johnny Walker.
Yes.
So he'll be looking to rebound, and that'll be about halfway through the main card of 236. What do you think?
That's a great going off the Dwight fight to the Khalil and Anders. Two guys in the light heavyweight that love throwing bombs. I've seen Khalil, though, especially with his last fight, obviously getting clipped there. I understand why he's an underdog. Do not sleep on him, especially with someone like Eric Anders who might get a little reckless in there. He could do the same thing. Both of these guys can finish each other with one punch, one clipped elbow. I honestly think, though, for the experience-wise, Anders has been in a little bit bigger caliber fights than Roundtree might have been here recently, so I think he's used to that. Like the Santos fight, Jesus. Like, absolutely wore him down and then finished him with 72 elbows before the round, and then he collapsed. I think that is going to pay dividends at the end, that he's been through those deep waters. I just don't know if Roundtree can get the finish. I just don't know if he can get the finish.
This is actually my pick.
Good pick.
I think that Eric Anders, obviously I'm picking him to win. I was surprised how much of a favorite he is. I thought it'd be closer to a pick'em. But I haven't been impressed with Khalil Roundtree lately.
No.
And I think that his chin's getting weaker and weaker.
Yep.
And so I think that I want to take advantage of that. And
that's a good pick.
Eric Anders.
Can I jump back to one that we didn't get to talk about, but I'll put my pick in on it?
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
So there's a smaller fight later in the early of this card, which is Max Griffin versus Zalim Ivanov. I picked this fight because I like Max Griffin a lot. I don't think Max Griffin knows how to finish yet in his division. I think that Zalim is going to come in there, let Max come out fast like he always does. And, Max is only a minus 145. Zalim is a plus 115. That's still even money to me. Reason I say that is Zalim, I think, will be patient. He'll wait on his time. He'll let Max tire out. Last fight I watched with Max, he looked great. He come out fast, throwing leg kicks left and right. He was all over. And then all of a sudden he got tired and kind of wore down at the end. And then obviously he got, decision loss to that. I think the same thing happens here. I don't think there's a knockout. I don't think there's a sub. I think Max comes out and blows his load, and I think this guy can control the cage, control the ground. I'm going to cause an upset here against Max Griffin, and that's my second bet.
I like that a lot. Now we're getting into the interim title fights. First one's going to be for middleweight. Number 4 ranked Kelvin Gastelum and number 5 ranked Israel Adesanya. Like I said before, I don't think that Israel has fought anyone good enough. He's never fought a top 5 fighter to be given this opportunity to have an interim title shot. I also don't know that Kelvin has, but he deserved it for what he did against Robert, or in preparation to fight Robert with the. I guess he was promised it for being the coach opposite Robert in the last Ultimate Fighter season. Israel's a minus 200 favorite. He is, the UFC is trying to pump him up big. Do you think Kelvin ruins everyone's party?
I agree with you that this is Israel's biggest fight he'll ever have at this level, at this point. I don't know if Kelvin can play a 5-round game. I think Israel, very similar to what he has done in other fights, wears you down. Anderson Silva at 42 years old, was able to go 5 rounds with Israel. I don't know if Kelvin's gas tank and cardio can do that. I think Israel will find that finish when he's tired. But I think Israel has to use every absolute crayon in his box to be able to figure out what shade he wants to paint Kelvin, because it's not going to be red like normal. He's not going to go in there and throw 500 bombs and then finally wear you down. He's got to figure out what Kelvin doesn't do the best, expose it, take advantage of it in the 4th or 5th round.
Yeah, I wanted to make this my other bet. I wanted to bet on Israel because it was better odds than Max. But I don't have nearly as much confidence in Israel beating Kelvin as I do in Max. I think that that fight against Anderson kind of made me worry. I thought that he should look better than that. I don't think Kelvin's going to be easy to finish. I have this going to decision. I think Kelvin's not going to have any issues going the whole time.
That's interesting.
I think that he's very disciplined. He's going to come into this very prepared. That's my feeling. He had just trained for that Robert Whittaker fight for damn near a year after he had everything up.
Yeah.
Was ready to go. This was announced pretty soon afterwards, so there wasn't a lot of time to lose that what he had worked for. As long as he stays mentally, and this is going to be the case. I mean, Israel fought that night; it was the same night. But if they stayed mentally focused, I think it's going to be tough to put Kelvin away. But I do like Israel to win. Like I said, I'm picking it to go the distance. But I wouldn't be too surprised to see Kelvin win. Like I said, Israel hasn't fought anyone this good yet. So this will be a new challenge for him.
Yep, I like that a lot.
And then the main event is Max Holloway and Dustin Poirier. And like I said, I'm making this my other bet just because
Go figure.
Damn near had to.
Yep.
Not getting great money at a minus 250 favorite, but
it's hard for them
if
not
I'm letting
to
my
do
money
that.
ride, I'm putting it on Max.
Yep.
He's looked so damn good twice in a row against Aldo, and then to clean out Ortega the way he did after Ortega has looked so dominant on his way to Max. I think Max is at another level. I know that Dustin beat Max last time, that they're both different fighters than they were then. But I think the level that Max is on, it's going to be really tough for Dustin to win. He's a minus 250 favorite, like I said, and I'm still putting my money on him.
This is not a featherweight fight back in the day when Max was basically barely old enough to drink a beer. He is not fighting a Dustin Poirier that was the same but coming up in the rankings, lighter weight. He's keeping his weight. He's keeping his strength. He's keeping his cardio. If Max puts out his output in punches and low kicks like he has before, and Dustin allows him to do that the entire fight, which Dustin has been seen to do that, where he'll trade with you, allow you to play your game, it could be an Aldo situation to where who's going to break first, and unfortunately Max has shown everybody that he's not going to.
It's not Max.
It's not Max. So I think Dustin's biggest thing that can help him is taking this to the cage or the ground, because he could put Max in situations he's not as often used to, but at the same time he could also hopefully hope that Max makes a mistake. I'm exactly with you. I am not betting against Max, money or not. You don't bet against Max Holloway after the last 2 years. I'm sorry. With this, Max is going to find his range, keep his punch and combos as usual. I think he's going to wait to clip Dustin. I don't even think he puts Dustin out. I think he clips Dustin and puts him into a situation where Dustin cannot recover. He lands 3 or 4 punches. Ref stops it. Dustin gets up, probably pissed, but Dustin's probably in a situation that he didn't want to go take 10, 12 more punches from Max, kind of like we did Aldo on top. So I don't care what anybody fucking says. This fight's going 2, 3, 4 rounds, and it's going to be fun. It's going to be...
I think it's stoppage, round 3 or 4.
I'm agreeing with that. I got 3 on mine. I think Max gets that TKO, and I think it's from the sheer fact of that output.
Yeah,
I think that output. I think the output and overwhelmness. Yep.
That's how I see the fight going, too, which is how most of his recent ones have, but that's what I think as well. So
nice. Just
to recap, in the main card, we both have OSP winning, Eric Anders winning, Israel Adesanya winning, Max Holloway winning. Dave's big on Dwight Grant. So those are our predictions.
We'll see if I eat my words card. 2 weeks back to back.
Yeah, and we'll hit you up after that.
Sounds great.
That's a wrap.